What's good, everybody? It is the Big Time Sports Podcast, and me, your host, Perci Garner. And we have our special guest that we try to have in a monthly basis, and you guys all know him. And we're going to be talking Guardians a little bit, but before I introduce, Mike again, I just want to make sure you guys are reminded to subscribe to the channel, check out our Facebook. We always have live updates there. We've got live football games there. So if you aren't able to make it to any of the games, you can always check out Big Time Sports YouTube page and Facebook page to find the latest action in high school sports here in Ohio. So we're going to be talking about, my 100-mile bike ride I did. We're going to be talking about, the Guardians, where they're at in the playoffs, and one of their special players. And then we're always going to end on an educational note and see if we can inspire and help you guys out. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back, Mike Gallina. How we doing, Mike?
Percy, I'm great anytime I'm hanging out with you. And then when we can double down and send out a multiplied message to I'll call them viewers and subscribers, it's a good day because we're causing folks to bump into their own little leadership energy while life's going on around them. So anything we can share is going to be good. And for me, it's always a treat to be with you.
Yeah, it's nice to, I always try to, help people out, whether it's in person or, over the internet. But it's always nice when you get to, bounce energy and questions and answers back with someone else, because sometimes, those solo shows can be, a little difficult. So it's always good to have you in studio. But without further ado, I want to kind of get straight into the show. Again, I'm always excited to have you on the show and want to hear your perspective. But I don't want to start because I didn't share this with you, which I can't believe it. I felt like I was screaming on the top of every mountain in Northeast Ohio. But me and Nathan Springer, who's an orthodontist here in Dover, he convinced me. I've always been a cyclist, but I mean, the furthest I've ever rode before this year was 30 miles at once. And it was tough, but I had set out on this goal to complete a century, AKA 100 miles, where I go from my doorstep and I take the towpath trail all the way up north to the end in Cleveland. And we had to go a little bit extra because we couldn't stop before we got to 100 miles because the towpath trail at this current state, it's being added onto in Dover, New Philly. But at the current state it's in, it's not quite 100 miles. So the park you end up in Cleveland, I think it's around 97, 98 miles. And I think in 2027, it will be 100. So we're waiting on that. I'm not sure if I'll do it again. We're going to get into that. But it was, the preparation was crazy. And luckily I had someone like Nate who has done it before. He actually is doing it again this week because he's psycho. But it was an accomplishment that I'm happy I've done. I'm not sure if I'm ever going to do it again. I'll probably will. Just because my watch died and I didn't get to record the full 100 miles.
No,
Yeah,
that's like having a Guinness Book of World Records and not having somebody sign off.
exactly. So my watch only got 90 miles and I'm like, ugh.
Oh,
But that's kind of funny because up to like mile 86 to 90, I was like, man, this isn't that bad. And then it got really bad. Shortly after that, my back was hurting, my feet was hurting. It wasn't a great experience at the end, and Nate also kind of held out that there was 3 or 4 more climbs that we had to go, some hills that we had to bike up in Cleveland when I thought I was in kind of cruise control. So that kind of threw a wrench into my plan. But at the end of the day, we got 100 miles done. It took us 8 hours of riding, about 10 hours total because we stopped twice to get use the restroom and fill up our water bottles. And we stopped once for lunch in Akron as well at mile 65. And man, it was an experience. Have you ever done anything, that you were kind of like, this may be a little out of my comfort zone, but it's a challenge. And, I want to take on this challenge.
boy, first I'll just relate it to biking. No, 20 miles is as long as I've ever gone, and it was part of a fundraiser. So, you're lifting up another agency or a group when you're doing it. So I might not have chosen it on my own, is what I'm saying.
Ah, gotcha.
And then you did 5 times that. So I would say no, but I have a great appreciation for knowing what 20 felt like, knowing you went 5 times that. So you got to bring me back. What caused you to say yes to this? And then how did you prepare for it?
So I've always liked, since I was a kid, I've always just had a special connection with bikes, building them up, changing components, taking my
Mm,
friends' bikes that they were about to throw away, taking an SOS pad to them, taking all the rust off, making it look brand new, repainting it, and just I loved that whole process. Loved working on bikes. And then I kind of, got focused on baseball and football and all that, and got out of it a little bit. But then I've had some knee issues in my career, and Sandy Alomar kind of got me back into biking because he caught for 20 years, so his knees are shot, and
yeah, yeah.
he's serious in the cycling, and I kind of took a liking to it. Like, hey, let's get back into it. And I think it was 2018. I bought a road bike, and I was biking back and forth to spring training, and I just was slowly but surely getting back into it. And then COVID happened. I kind of stopped, and I wanted to get back into it in 2023. 2020 to 2023, I was kind of like, half in, half out, wasn't riding enough. And then when I bought the bike, it was in Florida. The pavement and roads are perfect there. Coming back
Amen.
here, the bike is not that great on our pavement in the snowy
Oh no.
weather. So I sold that and bought a gravel bike. It's like the mixture of a road bike and a mountain bike, where you can get bigger tires on there. So, because, and I'm afraid of cars a little bit. I've had some scares. So
Yeah.
riding on the towpath with thicker tires is a little bit more safer. And it's just, you don't have to worry about someone running into you on the road. So that's what made me get into it. And they call it gravel biking. I'm not really going into, intense gravel, but, and just slowly but surely, I was like, man, I love this. I'm glad I'm back into it. The exercise is great. And then, reaching out to there's a lot of bikers here in Tuscarawas County, and I reached out to a couple, and one of them I have in Rotary meetings, and he just was putting the bug in my ear, like, yeah, you should get longer distances. And once I was like, all right, let's just do this. And it was last year. I was like, next year we're gonna go 100 miles. So he gave me his training plan, and I started doing it. And it was pretty easy. The plan was easy, where you're trying to ride 5 days a week. You're going one long ride, and then you're doing one super speed ride where you're trying to really get on the pedals. And then all the three other rides are just kind of spinning for an hour, whether you're doing it indoors or outdoors. Most of my riding was out. And doing that training just kind of, it worked. I was a little nervous when it came time, and I was kind of hitting up Nate like, hey, we still doing this? Trying to see if he wanted to postpone it or what. But nope, at the end of the day, we did it. We left at 7 a.m. and, it was a fun trip. His wife met us up there at Lake Erie, and she brought us home and had ice packs for us and a whole bunch of the electrolytes and all this stuff. So that's the craziest part during the ride. I had to constantly drink every 15 minutes. I was alternating between electrolytes and water. And every 45 minutes, I was either eating protein or these carbohydrate sugar like gummies. So I was just always doing something, and it was good to have someone who was experienced, but it was definitely something that I'll never forget. And, I posted on social media, and I was very, very excited to accomplish that. So, yeah.
Percy, what it makes me think right away, I applaud it. I say I have my admiration as well as applause, but it sounds a little bit like, too, as a pitcher, you had to trust your process. And then you get out there into the action and you start to say, okay, how did that work for me? So I'll bet you are having similar feelings along the way. Say, hey, I've prepped for things before, but this was an uncertainty, just like that first mound trip. How am I going to do with this? And then just leaning into your process. So I love that you use the hydration, the quick hitter, I'll say food source, or your consumption, so that you could keep yourself at peak performance, such as it was, even though it was still going to be hard. So it's almost like you had to drift back into a mindset that you had visited before, but it was a different medium to get you through.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the one thing is just knowing that being with someone who's done it before, granted it was only once they'd done it before, really helped. But the fact that I burnt 5,000 calories on that ride, and just knowing that I had to keep, it would have been nice to be like, oh, I don't want to eat stuff. This is going to be a good weight loss for me. But in order to complete it, you need to replenish the hydration and the energy, the food, and all that. You need the protein, the carb, and the carbs to keep you going, or else you're not making it. Because the thing they say is a lot of people probably have the legs or the strength to make it, but they don't properly fuel themselves throughout the ride, and then they hit a hard wall because the body just ran out of gas. And obviously, this good analogy with the car. You can't just say, "Hell, this car's got a lot of horsepower; it's gonna make it." No, if it ain't got enough gas, it's gonna come up short. So that was the focus. I'm glad that I had someone, helping me with that, and it was definitely something that maybe we'll make it a yearly thing. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I hear your well, what a life's metaphor that if you don't take time to fuel, whether that's emotionally, physically, mental, emotionally, if you don't take time to fuel, you'll think you can manage the next hard thing. And then you wonder why you couldn't.
Yeah,
And it was because you hadn't fueled along the way
I like
while
that.
you were in it, for sure. And that what a leadership takeaway from that. Because amen to that person. We think we can because we're fit. We've done this leadership thing before. But if we aren't dropping the fuel in at the right time for us, we can't be fuel to the work. And boy, you nailed it.
Love
What a
that.
great story. What a parallel
Yeah.
to the car, to the bike, to pitching, to leadership. You got it
I
all.
love it. I love it. And I appreciate you making the connection of all those things.
Mm.
And that's definitely going to help me because I don't think of things, I never thought of, things like that in that manner. I knew, usually you hear, hey, you can't pour into others until you pour into yourself. And that means something. But I think, doing this bike ride and seeing how important it was, I think it's big that, people kind of do that. Even if they're not leading other people, you're always leading someone. So you might not
Mhm.
intentionally be in a leadership position, but you always got to fuel yourself. And I think it's very important. And it was definitely important in this situation, which just taught me a life lesson. So hopefully I constantly
Mm.
remember that. But speaking of needing gas and stuff to keep going and fuel, let's talk about our Guardians. As they're what 100 and almost 150 games in, something around those lines.
Yeah, I think they've got 13 more to play.
Ooh,
We count tonight.
oh man. So I think
Yeah.
from what I saw, there's 6.5 back in the division and 3 games back in wild card. So it's it's gonna be tough. And obviously we're rooting our Guardians on. And uh I just it's something for me. I'm just like, look, this team is, I love the you know, kind of what they resemble here in Cleveland. It's not like, we're a high paid team that we always talk about. We're not too flashy. Even our superstar is like, yeah, our multiple superstars. They're just guys who want to put their head down, get the work done, have a good time while doing it, but also they're all about winning and doing what the team needs. I want to talk about Jose a little bit, but before we get into Jose, just do you have the faith in the Guardians to get through these last 2 weeks, 3 weeks to, make it to the playoffs? I'm not asking, do you think they're going to win the World Series?
Yeah.
But do you think they got what it takes with the leadership
Side and
to at least
downside.
get a playoff
But
berth?
personally, I do. And I think about 2.5 back or 3 back, we're catching the right upside. And we've got, some games at home here. I think it's with Minnesota or something that we can finish out at home. And if we can just have a couple folks bump those other contenders for that final wild card spot, I called it the plus minus game. If we can stay plus and they can hit a couple minus, we backdoor our way into that third wild card spot. And to your point about our market, the value, how we've done it with multiple players. And I'll share a quick one, just make your heart smile, because I think about those players, Jose, we're going to get to, but guys like Kafis, Rocchio, Noel, majority of the year in Columbus, other than Rocchio getting back up. And so it really speaks to our depth. Hey,
Yeah.
guys are prepared. They've managed their reps correctly. And then when asked to perform, they're finding their way. So I think it speaks to our culture, our team, kind of guys that are in the locker room. You've experienced all this. and you know when it's right. And so just having this energy of why not us? Let's have at it. And then you got a guy like Jose, who's just the anchor. He's the magnet that keeps everything into a spot so that you can surge. So just a maybe a little longer summary, but I love our guys. Answer your question directly. I think we have a shot. I just say, hey, why not us to be in that third spot?
Find a rewarding career close to home at Kimball. You'll find outstanding benefits, a supportive team, and opportunities for career growth. Working for a local family company really makes a difference. Apply today.
Aaron Kovalchik, attorney at law. Family court matters are important to you. You need an attorney that will listen to your concerns and execute a plan that will bring the results that you're looking for. That attorney is Aaron Kovalchik. For divorce or dissolution or custody, consult attorney Aaron Kovalchik. Inquire now at kovalchiklaw.com. That is www.kovalchiklaw.com. I like how you said that Jose is the magnet. And I think, he'd be the first person to tell you that, he can't win it all himself. But, with the analogy, him being the magnet brings everybody together. And I kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because I was reading some things and, obviously I got to play alongside Jose. I think I even played against him in the minor leagues years back. And just to see him, because he's done things that I never thought he would have, like stayed in Cleveland for a lot of less money. And I just didn't think anyone would do that. But it just goes to show how much he loves this organization, how much he feels like this is home, and how loyal he is. And I think he wants to win one here. And I think since we were so close in 2016, he just feels like, we got to get one here. So, but on top of that, if you're on the outside looking in, you might not know what type of personality he has. If you watch a lot of the Guardians and maybe see his post-game interviews and his interactions with Andre, then you understand he's got some
Yeah.
he likes to have a good time. And, the article I was reading was talking a lot about some players. And sometimes when they're new to the team and they go up to meet Jose, they don't see him as, even when I was playing, Jose was a phenomenal player. He's not what he is now, but, it's a nice looking field. But it's just a simple fact that, Jose obviously coming from a different country and adopting Cleveland and Cleveland adopting him is such a good feeling for someone who, gives his heart and soul to the game. And obviously he's going to leave a mark. Hopefully he can finish with a Hall of Fame career and get inducted. But I feel like, and also if you interview a lot of interviews I see of other players, other teams, other superstars on other teams, they always ask, the reporter might say, who's the most underrated player that you know about in the league? And a lot of people say Jose Ramirez because, they got to face him, whether they're pitchers or whether they're hitters, trying to track down his, home run ball or his double that he's hitting. Or, if it's a catcher trying to throw him out, stealing, like he's got a complete game. And the fact that he's got some comedy, some comedic relief for the players, whether it's a young guy who's a little nervous, trying to make a name for himself, or just a 40-year-old pitcher who's on his way out, but is just a good veteran, a good guy. He can connect with all those people, and it's a funny thing to watch since I've been able to kind of be in the same locker room as Jose, and it's definitely someone that I'm always going to root for no matter what team he's on. But the fact that he chose to stay in Cleveland is a pretty big deal. And just from your standpoint, do you get that? Do you get that, hey, Jose is a guy who, he kind of takes all this on and he's not like a super serious guy? Can you get that from how, his demeanor and everything on the field and how he performs? Do you get that he's sometimes can be a little silly and have a good time, but when it's time to strap it up and do his job, he's obviously one of the best.
Percy, I love your description because you had locker room experience with him and a lot of guys that you mentioned. And then you think about his career from Jose that you knew in the locker room to today. And so I'll wrap around some of what you shared. That idea of having a field in Cleveland that you got a chance to see and that he put there, it almost makes me think at his core, he understands the idea of neighborhood, of growing up, and providing an opportunity. For him, where was the field? That was like a haven as well as a heaven. And so he knew what it meant to him and his buddies to have a field to just go play on because it was everything that was good. While maybe stuff around them was not good or just less than.
Yeah.
So he puts this field in Cleveland. This is so symbolic because not only does he know he can do this because he's got resources, but it takes him back to give the gift forward of here's a field in a neighborhood that can be used however the neighborhood or the organization wants to promote it. So it's just so him going back to go forward, but then allowing what was really valuable to him to continue to be around him. So I just think it's so cool. And then his ability to do interviews, that childlike spirit, but yet a honed and crafted veteran ball player. It's the perfect mix of my ball field that I called home as a kid, but I've honed my skills to be pretty good in the craft, but I'm never going to forget how it felt like to be on that little home field. So I'm using the home field and his personality as a collision of all the positive energy you can that wraps around the guy we call Jose Ramirez.
Yeah.
And I think it's what leads to his success. He's found that spiritual spot to keep himself grounded. Didn't need the money. He needed the other things to feel good. Then he can keep working on his craft. And he's confident enough now to lead through humor and also to let guys watch how that goes down. Don't take yourself too seriously or this game too terribly seriously. And then really wrap yourself around it and say, let's be the best at what we can be. So using all the things you shared there, it was a good summary to say, I think it connects to his spirit. And that's why we get a chance to see such a cool spirit.
Yeah, I remember there was like a competition on who can imitate Jose's walk the best during media day when I was playing, and it's just great.
You and I could try it here on screen.
Well, the one thing I kind of want to end with, but also bring it back in. We're talking about Jose and the Guardians and what he's meant for the team, the community, and all the fans. Is you said he was the glue, and there's been a lot of MVP discussion. These last few years that he's really blossomed as a player. And I kind of want to talk to we stole a lot of content from you, the Mondays with Mike, and you had one you were talking about the MVP, and I always ask you to just, hey Mike, do you remember when you made this 2-3 years ago, whenever it was, and kind of pull from that video a little bit. But for me, what I was getting and what I kind of saw, especially in baseball, might be a little different. You might be able to look at this and apply it to basketball and football a little more. But just the way we were describing Jose and how he can rub off on any type of player, whether it's an older veteran or a rookie, and his energy can help them and elevate them, and maybe give them the encouragement or the positivity or just the lightheartedness of like, hey, I can perform at this level. Everyone is human, um, as opposed to just people like LeBron who can get people open and find them, and they're able to put up more production and more points than they probably would have been able to do without LeBron. And then in your video, you're talking about Peyton Manning, and obviously he's a quarterback. So everyone's going to look good if he's performing well. Of course, he needs his line and his receivers to get open. But at the end of the day, Peyton was someone through film study, practice, and rituals and dedication to the game that he was able to rub off on his teammates and make a lot of people, better than maybe we would have thought they were without them or without Peyton Manning. So I don't know if you can, if I just took all your ammo, but I wanted to kind of talk about all those things because that's what I was getting from you. But is there something I missed on the Mondays with Mike talking about the MVP? And I know it's not only about sports, because this can all happen in, no matter what area you're in. You don't even, most people might think of the CEO or the president or the executive director has to exude this positivity to make the company better. It could be all the employees. It could be the HR department. No matter what it is, people can rub off with positive energy, and if you just have good habits. You can rub off on your coworkers, even your leadership. And I think it all ends up being, you know, those type of people are the ones that, you know, those CEOs, those the executive directors, that's who they want to hire, the people that are contagious. And but yeah, without taking everything about the, the video from you, let's hear if you can remember when you were making that video and what you had in mind.
Well, Percy, thank you. I always like to start out with understanding that leadership at its core is influence. So when we think about can we influence others to be their very best using our skills and talents, now we become valuable to the organization or to our families, to our spouses, to our teammates, to our churches. So using a most valuable player or that MVP, a lot of folks take it to the outcome of some number or production. But really, when we think about our most valuable people in our organization, it's what their value does to cause others' value to increase. So when you're most valuable is when you're causing others to be most valuable. I know it's a funny play on words, but if we use the influence as saying, hey, if I can be in your space and help you do a task, or if what I did helps you then further a task, then I've provided value. Now there's the chance that if I've done it in the most valuable way, I become an MVP in that spot, as opposed to maybe the most accomplished, or that most talented or most skilled. That's a different way. So, nope, you didn't steal it all. You actually led me in there, Percy, and say, hey, what value do we bring? And is it the most valuable to help others have their greatest value? Now we've wrapped around that idea of MVP effort to cause an organization, a family, a locker room to be better if everybody has their MVP going on.
Yeah, that reminds me because I remember certain players, and I'm gonna stick to basketball on this point, where you have your role players or whatever your job is, and I've heard people talk about, well, you're the MVP, and they would point out, well, in this position, in this role, we had someone who accepted that role and was the best they can be in that role, and they were the most valuable they could be in that role. And that's kind of what I got from you is just it's important that everybody, you know, whatever your job is at that time, you can have ambition to be the most, the highest position, or you want to practice and work to be the player with the most production on your team. But it's also recognizing what is best for the team. Is it best for me to do this? Am I better at this right now to help the team? Or, there could be people that are short-sighted and really are just looking at the surface and saying, I really want to do this, and not knowing at the time, like learning this part of, the job or, this position could really benefit you at the next stop in your career, no matter where it is. So I'm always and I'm assuming you're that way too, but just being optimistic, you're always trying to look at like, okay, what's the good in this situation? And, sometimes it's okay to be, realistic, but I don't think optimism is a fairy tale. I think it's just looking at every possible positive thing out of trying to get every positive ounce out of everything. That's the way I look at it. And that's what I try to do on a daily basis is just say, obviously, I stub a toe. There's no positive out of that, but, but at the end of the day, I don't want to let that ruin the whole day. So, but no, Mike, I always appreciate having you on the show. If there's anything else you want before we get out of here, I want to make sure I give you another opportunity in case you wanted to build on something else I said or add it a little bit on. No, you don't need to, but I just
God bless you. I always like to celebrate you, Percy. So what you did is you brought us through the Guardians. Let's just use that as an example. Your 100-mile ride, and then our chance to talk about Jose. But you brought us through that whole thing that there's a mindset that we have to bring, and sometimes that's something we have to conquer. But when we do that with our heart, and put our greatest values in that we have, whether it's Percy on 100 miles, certainly whether it's Jose individually or guardians generally, or just being the MVP of your family. You brought us along on the mindset into our heart and then making sure that we understand our value. Just keep putting our value in optimistically every day. Stuff will find its way up because it's got such good energy. So I think you teased it out through the different ways we did this for that great leadership message to folks to say, have an opportunistic or an opportunity mindset, put your best skills and talents in, be valuable to others.
I want to close the show, but I want to say thank you for coming on and trying to, I'm always looking forward to the next show that we have together. But for all the listeners, viewers, and subscribers out there, I just want to make sure that you guys are aware that there will be some live football. I know weekends are football now. Let's start it with Friday and some big time sports. And we're going to be bringing some live football action to you guys. So make sure you tune into this YouTube page here. And then also we'll be coming again and again with some podcast episodes. And we'll be mixing up the guests every once in a while. I do enjoy doing the solos, but it's always good to have Mike in studio. And I try to get as many football coaches as I could in before. Next year we'll get some more before the season, because once the season gets going, I don't want to have to, but we got a lot of stuff going on. Before you know it, we're already halfway through September, which is crazy. We're going to have the sportsmanship banquet, which is the banquet before Dover and Philly game, and always keep it locked here on the Big Time Sports YouTube channel. Hopefully I'll get to eat breakfast one of these days with Charlie and Mike up there at Walters, but
we love to have you. Can't wait for it.
It will happen one day. It'll happen
All
one
right,
day.
I like it. Glad to hear the commitment.
Yeah, if I can ride 100 miles, I think I could make one of these breakfasts.
Don't even ride your bike up. Just come in a car.
It's pretty close to that Ernie's that I've been to,
It
too.
is.
Yeah,
It's not far away.
yeah. But no, I always love having you on, Mike. I appreciate everybody who, listens to the show, watches the show, comments below. Love all that. Didn't mean to rhyme there, but it all happened organically. but no, I'm always holding on, making the show longer than it needs to be. But again, we appreciate everybody who, supports Big Time Sports. We're going to continue bringing the content. And of course, we'll see you in next week's episode. Peace.